2 years ago, Indonesia made a daring move by launching Southeast Asia's very first bullet train, a sleek, high-tech marvel connecting Jakarta and Bandung in just 40 minutes. To put that in perspective, this journey used to take over 3 hours by car. Now, it's faster than most people's morning commute, but this train is more than just speed. It's a symbol, a clear message to the world that Indonesia isn't satisfied with being a developing country stuck on the sidelines. It wants to lead, modernize, and build its future. The train is called Whoosh, which stands for Waktu Hemat Operasi, Optimal System Hebat, roughly translating to save time, operate optimally, great system. The name also mimics the rushing sound the train makes as it zooms along the tracks, fast, modern, ambitious. This wasn't just any infrastructure project. It was a milestone, a national statement on the global stage, and it was backed by China as part of the massive Belt and Road Initiative. The bullet train represented more than just transport. It symbolized economic transformation, regional leadership, and international cooperation. But here's where the story gets interesting. The very country that helped build the line, China, is now refusing to fund its expansion. Why would China pull back from one of its own showcase projects? What does this mean for Indonesia's future and China's ambitions across Asia? In this video, we'll dive deep into the full story, from the urgent need that sparked the bullet train project, to the geopolitical moves that made it possible, to the real-world impact it's had, and the tough lessons emerging as it looks to expand. This isn't just a train story. It's about infrastructure, economics, politics, and nations racing toward the future at 350 kilometers per h. To understand why Indonesia took on this huge, costly, and risky project, you need to know a bit about the country itself. Indonesia isn't just one place. It's a sprawling archipelago of over 17,000 islands straddling the equator. It's the world's fourth most populous country, but its people and economy are scattered, making basic connectivity a major challenge. Now imagine Java, the most crowded island, home to over 150 million people. That's more than Russia's entire population. Packed onto an island smaller than Florida. Jakarta, the capital, sits on the west edge. Bandung, a key tech and education hub, lies just 150 kilometers away, but traveling between them used to be a nightmare. Car trips took 3 hours on a good day, often turning into 5 during holidays. Buses were crowded and slow. The trains? Old and not enough to handle demand flights existed, but were expensive, often delayed, and not practical for daily commutes. Indonesia's roads simply couldn't keep up with the booming economy. Air travel was popular but strained under millions of travelers moving between islands and cities. So, when the government looked ahead, they saw a clear limit on how fast the economy could grow, if people and goods couldn't move efficiently. That's when the idea of a modern high-speed rail system moved from a luxury to a necessity. This was about more than just cutting travel time. It was about opening up regional development, lowering carbon emissions, and giving Indonesia the kind of transport backbone you'd expect in a developed economy. It meant rethinking how people live, work, and connect, especially in Java, where most of Indonesia's GDP is generated. In short, the bullet train wasn't just a flashy mega project. It was a bet on Indonesia's future, one that could bring its infrastructure up to the demands of a rising middle class and a rapidly growing economy. To make this bet, Indonesia had to pick a partner. It was 2015, and Indonesia stood at a crossroads. The country decided to build Southeast Asia's first bullet train, but the question was, who would build it? 2 strong contenders stepped forward. Japan and China. Japan brought decades of high-speed rail experience, including the legendary Shinkansen. Their offer highlighted safety, reliability, and long-term support. But it came with strings attached: government guarantees, strict oversight, and higher costs. China, meanwhile, was rising fast. With dozens of bullet trains already running across its vast territory, China promised speed, not just in the trains themselves, but in construction. More importantly, China offered to build the project without demanding sovereign guarantees. This was a game changer for Indonesia: less financial risk, faster timelines, and broader technology cooperation. China sweetened the deal by linking the project to its vast Belt and Road Initiative. This wasn't just about a railway. It was diplomacy, development, and influence all rolled into one. Choosing China meant Indonesia could become a flagship example of what Beijing could deliver to developing countries. In 2015, Indonesia made its choice. China won. The groundbreaking ceremony took place in 2016, but progress wasn't smooth. First came land acquisition delays. Thousands of parcels had to be cleared before tracks could be laid. Then political pushback and community skepticism surfaced. Just as construction picked up speed, COVID-19 slammed the brakes. Labor shortages, supply chain disruptions, and soaring costs piled on. But China pushed forward, and so did Indonesia's engineers, many of them newly trained locals. Despite uncertainty, they kept building. Finally, in October 2023, the moment arrived. The Jakarta-Bandung high-speed rail, officially named Whoosh, was inaugurated. Indonesian President Joko Widodo and top Chinese officials stood side by side, smiling in front of a gleaming, fuxing bullet train. It was a symbol of ambition, cooperation, and the power of infrastructure to transform a nation. 2 years after launch, was it all worth it? By early 2025, over 8 million people had ridden the Jakarta-Bandung bullet train. But this isn't just a number. It's millions of hours saved, millions of smoother journeys, and millions of reasons to rethink travel in Indonesia. Before the train, that trip took over 3 hours by car on a good day. Now it's just 40 minutes, and the train flies at 350 kilometers per h. Never crawling through traffic, ridership has been stronger than expected, with daily peaks of 24,000 passengers and an average occupancy rate above 60%. Simply put, the trains are filling up and staying full. The impact isn't just felt at the station. Look at West Java's Bandung, famous for its culture and cool weather, now booming with tourism. Hotels are fuller, cafes are opening everywhere, and local businesses, from fashion to food, are seeing more customers. All of this thanks to the weekend travelers coming from Jakarta. Over 50,000 jobs were created during the construction phase. But more importantly, a new wave of Indonesian engineers and technicians are now running the operations. While China built the train, Indonesia is learning to operate it. There's been a real transfer of technology. Indonesian universities have even started adding bullet train systems to their engineering courses. This means real long-term skills, not just borrowed know-how. So yes, the Jakarta-Bandung high-speed rail has delivered in many ways. Speed, better access, more tourism, jobs, and national pride. But as the train moved forward, a tougher question came up. What's next? And that's where it gets more complicated. After the success of the Jakarta-Bandung line, Indonesia wanted something bigger, to extend the high-speed rail all the way to Surabaya, the country's second-largest city. This wouldn't just be a longer train ride. It would be a 588 kilometers main line running through Java's southern corridor, the island's most crowded area. It would link major economic hubs, make travel easier for tens of millions, and boost trade and growth. For Jakarta, it was a perfect plan. Momentum was high, the infrastructure team was ready, and the public loved high-speed travel. With China as the original supporter, Indonesia expected the extension funding to be a simple yes. But then came the surprise. China said no. Beijing turned down Indonesia's request for $7 billion in new loans to fund the expansion. No new trains, no new tracks. No clear green light from the partner that helped start it all. This shocked analysts and officials. Why would China step back from one of its showcase projects? This was meant to be a Belt and Road success story, a model for selling high-speed rail technology worldwide. The extension would have made global headlines. So, why pull back? It turns out China's decision had more to do with money, politics, and caution than Indonesia itself. There are three main reasons behind China stepping away. Reasons that show how complex big infrastructure deals become when geopolitics and finance mix. Though the Jakarta-Bandung train is fast, sleek, and popular, it's not profitable yet. By mid-2024, the company running it reported losses of 3.5 trillion rupiah, over $200 million. Why? A few factors. Ticket prices are already high for many Indonesians, limiting ridership. Operational costs, maintenance, energy, imported parts are significant. Plus, the system is still improving efficiency. The original train was a customized version of China's fuxing model, adapted for Indonesia's terrain, climate, and earthquake risks. Extending the line across Java means even harder engineering, especially in mountainous and crowded areas. While Indonesia has trained many local engineers, it still relies heavily on Chinese experts for the toughest parts. Scaling up would stretch Indonesia's technical skills, and China knows that. Indonesia is going through a leadership change, and future political priorities are uncertain. China, having had bad experiences before, like Sri Lanka's debt trap port, is cautious. If a new government delays payments or changes focus, Beijing could be stuck funding an unstable project. With more global scrutiny on China's overseas investments, it's no longer willing to write blank checks just for influence. Put all this together, and you see the real reason behind the no. It wasn't just rejection, it was a strategic pause. China is slowing down to assess risk and protect its global reputation. Even without the Surabaya extension, Indonesia's high-speed rail future isn't over. The Jakarta-Bandung HSR is a proof of concept. It shows that high-speed rail can work in Southeast Asia. More importantly, it's inspired a new generation of engineers, planners, and leaders to think bigger. Indonesia isn't giving up. Officials say the pause is just temporary. Meanwhile, they're building local capacity, training talent, improving infrastructure, and studying smart ways to expand. The long-term goal? To grow the rail network across Java and beyond, either on their own terms or with new partners. China isn't stepping away from Southeast Asia. In fact, high-speed rail projects are moving forward in Thailand, Malaysia, and Vietnam, each tailored to local politics and budgets. China is shifting from big headline-grabbing mega-projects to smaller, sustainable partnerships that still give influence, but with less risk. What's interesting is who's calling the shots now. Early on, China led most projects. Today, countries like Indonesia are negotiating more confidently, demanding more local control, better deals, and real knowledge transfer. That's a win not just for Indonesia, but for the whole region. Because this isn't just about fast trains. It's about independence, pride, and creating a future where global partnerships are truly equal. The Jakarta-Bandung HSR is more than a transport project. It's a symbol of ambition, challenge, and change. It shows how infrastructure can shape a country's destiny, and how smart choices can influence international cooperation. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, like this video, subscribe, and for more, like, and drop your thoughts in the comment section. What does infrastructure mean for a country's future? And would you ride a high-speed train across your own country? Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.